What's going on, guys, and welcome back to F1 22 for My Team Career Mode Season 3, Round number 4, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Of course, first sprint weekend of the year of this season, so we'll see how that goes for us. We had a double points finish last time out in China, so definitely hoping for more of that come this race and for the rest of this season. Had a few parts that failed on us last time around, so we're going to redo those and also put a new durability parts on the car, but those aren't going to come through for another round or so. Looking at R&D, and we are right there still with McLaren, actually just fallen below them. I think that actually did happen last race. Mercedes have actually made a bit of a leap towards Red Bull and Ferrari themselves at the top, taking another step forward, so they're going to be hoping for a better weekend than they had last time out in China, where they had a double DNF for the team. That was big for them in the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship, have now been overtaken by Red Bull. So yeah, very, very big stuff at the top of the timing, at the top of the grid there, I suppose, top of the timing sheets, whatever you want to say. Q1 went okay for us. My lap time wasn't great, and on this final lap here, I was actually down on my time throughout pretty much the whole lap, but managed to get a bit of a slipstream from Schumacher ahead in the Haas at the end, and did just about do a quicker time, only just though, P12, which isn't bad, but considering we've got both AlphaTauris ahead of us there was definitely more pace in the car. And Lando Norris, I think he was like P4 there, our teammate, so shows that we potentially have quite a lot of pace in this car on this track. We may only be I think the 6th quickest car on paper now at the moment, but yeah, we are still showing that we've got some decent pace here, and we can definitely battle in that top 10. Q2, and once again, it was a bit of a topsy-turvy lap, a little bit better though. P8 for me, P5 for Norris, so once again, we are both into Q3, so that's very good. Lance Stroll, probably the big one to get knocked out there, along with Nicholas Latifi, although that's not really a surprise. The Alpine should be in the top 10, but yeah, Latifi is definitely not making the most of it. In Q3 now, and for our lap time here, and I was really throwing the car around. You can see I'm a little bit down in the first sector here, just because I've thrown it a bit too much through turn 1, turn 2, but then I get a much better line through through that next chicane, and we are now green as we head up the hill. Sector 2 is where I seem to be able to make my time on this track. Sector 1 is probably my worst sector. Sector 2 I'm really good. Sector 3 I'm kind of just alright. So this is definitely where I make the most of the time, heading down the hill, try and get on the brakes as late as possible. If you get the line correctly, like I think I did there, you can go flat through that section, but it is very on edge, and I am a little bit up on time here as we head through the next chicane. Can definitely get that one wrong if you hit the curbs too violently, but this time around we managed to get it done very nicely, and we are way up on our previous best time. My time before this was not a particularly good lap, so I'm showing much better pace on this current lap. At this point in time, I'm sitting P9 in the standing. So what is this lap gonna do as we cross the line? And it still looks like it's P9, and in the end it is going to be P10, unfortunately for us. But Lando Norris goes P4, which is ridiculous in our car. He's showing that car has some pace. We've got a bit of work to do, but we've got a sprint race up before the main race, so let's see what we can make of that.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's sprint. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Norris, Sir Lewis Hamilton and Bottas, Ocon, Russell, Ricciardo and Shaw, Stroll, Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda and Latifi, Magnussen, Joe, Alex Albon and Robert Schwartzman, Mick Schumacher, Vettel, Ticktum and Liam Lawson. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We will soon find out.
Alright, so it is sprint race time here at Imola to 5 red lights for the sprint race. Lando Norris on the second row of the grid, P4. That is awesome for him. We are P10 as we get underway. Everybody starting on the medium tyres here. It is not the greatest start for us, although in the second wind we actually get back a little bit on Stroll, and I think he gets boxed in by Ricciardo a bit up ahead, but that is a Ferrari off into the gravel in turn 1. We very nearly make contact with Stroll. That was Charles Leclerc, the pole position the first in qualifying is off in turn 1 into the gravel. That's dropping him right down to the end of the field, and now we go wide through the next set of corners. Ricciardo gets back passes after we did manage to get ahead of him. We then get a big sideways moment out of that kind of hairpin style corner there, and we're struggling a bit. We've got two AlphaTauris all over the back of us, but we're going to brake late and make sure we get through that next corner ahead of those guys. So we're still in P10 here, but we've been overtaken by Ricciardo, and we've been re-overtaken by Ricciardo and overtaken by Stroll at the start. He started behind us in P11, but has managed to actually get past us and Ricciardo, and is up into P8 at the moment. And now we're just trying to shake away Gasly and Tsunoda, as there's a bit of too wide action behind. I think that, no, that wasn't the AlphaTauris, that was someone else, but we're just now trying to get back in this fight. But yeah, that was a crazy start to the race with Leclerc off, the pole sitter from qualifying. Whether you call it pole or not in qualifying, I'm calling it pole. The pole sitter off at turn 1. So unfortunate. I think we're going to see a replay of that. So here we go. Leclerc actually gets a really good start against Verstappen and cuts him off going through the first little kink there as they go into turn 1 on the brakes. Just a little bit of a lockup from Leclerc, and it puts him straight into the gravel as Norris is actually fighting Sainz for what is now second place there. So that is awesome to see. As we just have a look at on board from Leclerc, just locks up the front left. Straight on he goes, and he has to watch everyone go past. Here's a view from Verstappen behind. There he goes, lets Verstappen off into the lead, and we'll look at the start from Lando Norris here. He gets a great start off the lights, is already side by side with Carlos Sainz, and is actually now ahead of Carlos Sainz as they come into turn 1. Verstappen's going defensive, then Leclerc's off in front, kind of catches Norris out a little bit, ends up side by side with Sainz, and Sainz does manage to get ahead, but still, that is Norris now in P3. So what an awesome start for him. Carlos Sainz, though, in the other Ferrari, is trying to make amends as he dummies Verstappen, goes outside, then to the inside, tries to get past him into turn 1, makes contact, and unfortunately doesn't get the position done, but no damage done there, thankfully. As Lando Norris is still doing a great job up here in P3, but he is showing that our car does not have the pace of the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. And now Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes is going around the outside. They make a little bit of contact, I think, through turn 1, turn 2. They're still side by side. In the end, though, Norris will actually manage to just about fend off Lewis Hamilton in this early stage of the sprint. We have now caught up to the back of Daniel Ricciardo, and we're looking to make a move because our car does have good pace here as Ricciardo goes very deep into turn 1. We're going to try and get the switch back on him round turn 2 and get that position up into P9 right now, as the two AlphaTauris behind are about to have a little bit of a battle as well. But that's us up another position and past Ricciardo. As a few laps later, Sainz going once again to the inside for a move on the lead on Verstappen. Big contact through turn 1 there once again, but I think there's no damage again. But this time, Sainz manages to get up into the lead, and he now leads this Emilia Romagna sprint. At the same time, I believe Hamilton trying to get past Norris, as Norris goes a little bit deep, but just about manages to defend. Great driving from Lando Norris, and actually leaves Hamilton a little bit vulnerable. And now that is that Valtteri Bottas in the other McLaren, now going for a move on Hamilton. These two now side by side as they go around this kind of hairpin corner. The two old teammates from 2021 back to 2017 fighting each other. This time it's Mercedes versus McLaren. Bottas dives up the inside and makes contact with Hamilton, and that has given Bottas front wing damage. He'll have to come into the pits now, as this all happened right in front of us here. We get brake checked by Stroll. Very clumsy there. And then Stroll finds himself the inside. We manage to breeze around the outside of him, so we make a very opportunistic moment here. There's a lot going on at the start of this sprint race here. This is absolutely crazy. The two AlphaTauris, I said earlier, were having a bit of a battle, very close to each other. At the moment, it's Gasly ahead of Tsunoda, and then you've got, I think that's Zhou Guan Yu behind them as well. As now with DRS heading on to the final lap of this sprint race, Tsunoda now breezes past his more experienced teammate with the DRS, and that might have just sealed the deal for Tsunoda to finish ahead of Gasly, but he runs a little bit too deep into turn 1. He might have just about saved that, I think, though. But the story of this sprint race for me, though, is Lando Norris. He's going to come through and finish P3 in the sprint here. That is awesome to see our car and our second driver, our teammate, bring up technically a podium, but it's technically not a podium. I don't count it as a podium if it's not a sprint, but it's a P3 finish in the sprint for Norris. That's going to put him in a great position going into the main race tomorrow. It's 6 points for him in this sprint, which is awesome. Big points for him, big points for the team in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, driver of the day, Carlos Sainz, he takes the win from Verstappen in the end. And it's very unfortunate for Leclerc just going off at turn 1. That is not good for him. Should have been potentially starting on pole for the main race, but now he's going to be starting way down the back of the order, as we finished in P7 there. As we look down the order, where did Leclerc finish? P21 for Leclerc, so not what he would have wanted, but let's see what the race has in store.
Hello there and welcome back to Imola, home circuit of the Scuderia Ferrari. We expect to see a lot of local supporters in red today. They've all turned out for what we have every expectation will be a sensational event here at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. 3.1 miles of track at Imola, featuring 19 turns, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. Remember that Imola differs from most other Formula One tracks as it's driven anti-clockwise. Let's hope nobody forgets that today. The exit from turn 18 will probably be the setup for many of today's overtakes, leading as it does into the longest straight on the circuit and its only DRS zone. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. It's Carlos Sainz in pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Hamilton, Esteban Ocon, Shaw, Stroll, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, and Pierre Gasly, Joe, Albon, Mick Schumacher and Magnussen, Schwartzman, Russell, Daniel Ticktum and Liam Lawson, Leclerc, Vettel, they've taken a grid penalty, Bottas and Nicholas Latifi. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you here with us today. But I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It will keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
Alrighty, so we're actually P6 on the start grid because George Russell has taken a grid penalty, so he starts further back in the order, so that promotes us up one position. We've got Esteban Ocon ahead of us, Lance Stroll and Daniel Ricciardo behind us on the soft tyres. Those two both on soft tyres. A lot of other people on mediums, and I think also Max Verstappen is on the softs at the front, and there may be a couple of others as well. But we'll see what effect that has with strategy, whether they're doing a two-stop. Are McLaren and Ricciardo trying a one-stop again like they did in China from softs to mediums? We'll have to wait and see. So here we go for the main race at Imola, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go. It's a better start for us than we had in the sprint. Yes, we're going to get somewhat overtaken by Stroll into turn 1, but he's on the soft tyres, so it's kind of to be expected. And to be honest, we actually managed to stay side by side, and we're actually going to have a little bit of a look at Esteban Ocon as we go through turn 1. A little bit too tight of a line though, and that's going to let Stroll pass, just slightly compromise our line, but I'm not too bothered about that. Stroll is on the soft tyres. He should be making his way through the order here, so I'm not too bothered. We've now got Ricciardo behind us on the softs. I will try and keep him behind if I can, but same as Stroll, I'm not too bothered because he is on a better tyre compound. Verstappen, as you can see, has got the lead at the start of this race, as expected, because he's also on the softs. There's now Ricciardo having a look around the outside of this left-hander here. We get a little bit caught on the curb there, and he's having another look down the inside, but we're just going to completely block that one off. We're not letting him dive on us right there, and we're going to try and keep with the cars ahead. The two leaders getting a bit of a gap to Lando Norris, who is still sitting in third place with Lewis Hamilton behind him. So can Norris hang on to a podium here? It would be quite the thing if he can, but hey, I reckon if anyone can do it, it's Lando Norris in our car this season. As we continue on, still within a second of Stroll ahead, so that's good. It's been a better start than what we had in the sprint race. Verstappen crosses the line for the fastest lap, leading the race, and we continue on. But I'm noticing Ricciardo definitely getting better traction off the corners than we are. But 5 laps into the race, and what's that? That's a Ferrari going slow, and it's Carlos Sainz from the lead, or from second place on the grid. Sainz is out. It's a double retirement, I guess, or 2 retirements in a row, back-to-back retirements for Carlos Sainz. That is terrible for Ferrari, especially considering Leclerc is way down the back of the order. As we now have a look at, I think Hamilton may have got past Norris actually for P3, or at least they were battling each other. Now Ricciardo has sent one up the inside of us, and he is fighting us up this hill here, just has better traction on those soft tyres, but we're really trying to fight this, but we're going to end up going way too wide round the next corner, and we kind of back out of it a little bit as we get on the curb, because the curbs here can be quite vicious, so you really don't want to be on those kind of jaggedy bits. It will give you underbody damage, so had to back out of that, and Ricciardo gets past us. As now Norris is going for a move back on Hamilton again, because Hamilton did get past him a couple of laps ago, and I think he might have done it. Yes, he has. Lando Norris back up into what is actually now P2, because with Carlos Sainz out of this race, Verstappen's P1, Norris P2, and Hamilton P3, so this is looking even better possibly for Norris, but let's not say anything too crazy yet. Anything can happen. There's still plenty of this race to go, as now we come charging through on Daniel Ricciardo. He's going to try and stick it there on the inside, but we're going to keep our car right there, go as late as we can on the brakes, and get past him into that corner. It's looking a little bit dark actually out, so I'm a bit worried about rain potentially. There's no rain forecast, but yeah, it is a little bit scary looking, as now once again still this battle for second place. Norris actually runs a bit too deep into turn 2. That lets Hamilton get alongside, but then they battle each other. They get a little bit too argy-bargy. Norris keeps the position. Hamilton now slightly under threat from Stroll and Ocon behind, but they will all stay in the same positions. Now though, we've caught up to the back of Ocon and Stroll's gone deep into turn 1, that's let Ocon through, and now we are right on the back of Stroll. We tried to see if we could get a bit of a run on him into this next corner, but couldn't quite do it. I think the soft tyre runners are now starting to feel a bit of pain in those tyres, but we're on lap 11. I reckon these guys are trying to do a one-stop from softs to mediums. I think that's the plan here, as now we're trying to make quick work of Stroll once again, make him go a little bit deep once again into turn 1. We're going to try and get a better run through this next corner. We do, and with ERS deploying, we're going to go and try look to the inside, but oh, it's a little bit too cautious. Well, I think we being cautious was a good thing there, because that could have ended in an almighty crash. We were a bit too far back to do anything there. As Lando Norris now trying to make, George Russell trying to make his way through the grid after having a grid penalty for this race. He's just got himself past one of the Hasses, I think, of Robert Schwartzman, and actually that is Charles Leclerc behind as well, also trying to make his way through the grid after that terrible start to the sprint race. We come in on lap 15 onto 16 for our only pit stop onto a set of white wall hard tyres, and it's a good stop from the team. We are still here right behind Esteban Ocon, but what's going to happen with the soft tyre runners, that's Ricciardo and Stroll both coming past ahead of us. Ricciardo especially has made a lot of time up in this phase with the pit stop, and he is now running in a great position of, I think, P3, or maybe I think it's P3 at the moment, so that is really good from him. And now Norris and Hamilton still battling each other here up ahead, and Hamilton has managed to get back past Norris once again, so the battle with those two just keeps going on, as now Daniel Ricciardo on the back of Norris. He's going to the outside of this chicane right here, but he's not going to quite make that move stick. Ricciardo trying to take the P2 from Norris, and he just can't quite make it work at the moment. He's on fresh medium tyres, but he's got to try and get those mediums all the way to the end. We've now caught up to Hamilton. I think he actually made a little bit of contact with Norris and had to come in for a front wing change, which it's made him fall down the order quite a bit. And we're going to make an easy DRS pass on him. Up now into P6. Ocon and Stroll have kind of run off ahead. They are showing a bit too much pace for me, and battling with Hamilton as I have to go quite defensive into the next corner because Hamilton is right there looking. Yeah, it's it's going to be quite a lot to catch up to those guys. However, they are all going to be fighting. Speaking of all fighting, this is once again George Russell trying to make his way through the grid. He's going for now a move on Yuki Tsunoda into the hairpin side by side with him. Great little battle here brewing with this big kind of DRS train, but Russell, I don't know why I keep calling him Norris. Russell, of course, quite a bit quicker than these guys in the Mercedes. You've also got Leclerc still sat around the back here, but not making the progress he would have perhaps wanted. But Russell really is making good progress. Now got a move done on one of the Alfa Romeos, as now Leclerc is fighting with Yuki Tsunoda side by side around this section, and he's got ahead of the Japanese driver. Brings Leclerc up another position, just trying to salvage anything he can after this weekend, which could have been great, but has unfortunately once again been back-to-back terrible weekends for Ferrari, and especially at their home Grand Prix here at Imola. As George Russell's trying to get past, I think that's Mick Schumacher, he locks up a little bit, and now Russell finds himself alongside Leclerc, and Russell's actually got wing damage, and he'll have to come into the pit, so all that hard work that he's been doing has now been for nothing. He drops to the back of the grid. We kind of just were trying to fend off Hamilton for a lot of laps here. He was right behind us for a long time, and I mean, he was still there within a second and a half come the end of the race, and there were a few moments where he was catching and trying to go for a move down the straight, but once we got out of DRS range, we were pretty safe. But once again, he was the man of the hour in the sprint race with that P3 finish. Well, he's currently sitting P2 in this main race, and he's got a decent gap to Daniel Ricciardo P3, who, might I just say, the strategy has worked out a blinder for Ricciardo and McLaren. He was, you know, down fighting with me in P6, P7. Well, he's going to come home P3 with the strategy that he's been given, but Lando Norris for our team takes P2. It's second place for TGL Motorsport, and Lando Norris, I think that's our first second place, because we've got 2 podiums, both third places from last season. That is the first second place finish for TGL Motorsport, and Lando Norris is the one that got it. We do just about defend from Lewis Hamilton for P6, so it's an okay result for us. I was hoping for more considering where Norris finished, but yeah, all in all, pretty good race. Very happy for Lando.
Red Bull pulling out all the stops today. What a great win. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently. It's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be proud of the victory they've secured here.
So there it is, Max Verstappen wins the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Lando Norris up there in second place, which is just absolutely amazing. Awesome to see my teammate in second place. It's annoying that we're not the one to get the first podium for the team this season, but hey, I'm happy for Norris for sure. And then Daniel Ricciardo in third, which is awesome to see for McLaren and Ricciardo, but yeah, a little bit annoying because, you know, he was behind us and his strategy boosted him up to P3. So yeah, I guess McLaren just on with good strategies at the moment. We really need to maybe try that at some point, you know, going from soft to medium on some races, see if we can also do it with the tyre wear that we've got. It's P6 for us. We ended up finishing ahead of Hamilton, of course, so decent enough, I guess. Only DNF of the race was Carlos Sainz, and Charles Leclerc ended up P9, so he does pick up 2 points for Ferrari, but definitely not what Ferrari would have wanted in their home Grand Prix. And looking at the Drivers' Championship, Verstappen now leads with Sainz in second, Stroll is third, Ricciardo's fourth, and Charles Leclerc is all the way down to P5, and then Norris in seventh, us in eighth. So Norris is now 2 points ahead of us in the championship. Mick Schumacher with 1 point in at the end of the point scorers as well. And then in the Constructors' Championship, now Red Bull have a pretty decent lead over Ferrari, then McLaren in third, and TGL Motorsport, we are now in fourth place. We're ahead of Mercedes and Alpine, so we're looking good at the moment. We've still got a fair way to go to catch up to McLaren and the top 2 teams, but it's definitely a step forward for us. P4 is very, very good, so yeah, hoping to keep improving from here onwards, and I'm hoping that in the next few races, potentially, we can go for our first race win. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.